My name is Palmer Chinchin, and this week I'm talking about how the church needs to lead the way toward racial oneness. You see, the problem is we aren't always doing so good at promoting racial oneness. I know this because not long ago, for example, I read an article about a church in Kentucky that banned a young couple from taking communion at the communion table. And when I read the reason why, I couldn't believe it. The article said because it was a biracial couple. They banned them from the communion table. It's so tragically ironic because Jesus' favorite metaphor for the kingdom of heaven was always a table. For example, in Matthew 22, he talks about a feast, and he says, this man is holding a banquet for his son. And he invites people to the feast. And then when the ones he invited don't come, he sends his people out into the streets. He says, tell everyone they are invited to my table. You see, Jesus loved tables. At his tables, we come together as one. I want to challenge you with something today. I want to challenge you with three things. The first is to admit and acknowledge that there is a problem in our country. Because all of the denying that I hear, all of the dismissing that the things that happen aren't so bad, we have to admit that there is a problem. Because I don't believe, for example, that most Christians are racist, but we do live in a society that has been divided structurally. We've been divided into schools, we've been divided into neighborhoods, and sometimes we've been divided into churches. But you and I can change that. That's why I say the church must lead the way towards racial oneness. So I say first, admit and acknowledge, and then I challenge you second to confess. This is the tough part. Confess that in some small way, each of us has contributed to the problem. Maybe it's in a stereotyping that you've had in your own thinking. I don't know what it is in your life, but confess. And then finally, I would challenge you to commit to change and to be part of changing what is not right in our country and in our churches. There's a church in Los Angeles called Mosaic, led by Erwin McManus. I can't think of a better name for a church than Mosaic. And I read that a while ago. Erwin asked his congregation this question. He said, if you work with people of a different race or nationality, would you raise your hand? And he says that practically every hand in the room went up. And then he said, now raise your hand if you've invited those individuals into your home for dinner. Most of the hands went down. And here's the thing, life happens around the table. I said Jesus' favorite metaphor was a table, and so invite people around your dinner table. Because when we sit and we have a meal together, we share stories at a table. We laugh and we cry together at tables. We share recipes at tables. We spill drinks at tables. Life happens around the table. And so can I invite you and challenge you to take the first steps in making your home a place that becomes a place of healing and reconciling for people of all backgrounds, nationalities, races.
We almost used with fireworks with a wet fuse, flying